Hi there, and thank you for tuning in. Today I want to show you how you can clean your sensor on your Nikon D700, but before we do that, I want to show you how you can check if you have dust or dirt on your sensor. And then afterwards I want to show you how you can check if you have solved the problem. So let's get cracking. First of all, if you're not comfortable with this process, don't venture into it. Have someone professional do it. You can damage your camera, you can scratch the glass in front of your sensor and so on. So unless you're absolutely sure that you want to do this, ask someone professional to get it done. Then you're sure it's done in a good way. But if you're still curious and want to crack on, and this is basically on you, then I want to show you how you can do it. First of all, you want to figure out if you have an issue. So what you want to do is basically take a picture of something that's white. You can take a white wall, but here I have opened up the notepad on my PC. So I have a nice white surface here. Your camera settings, set your camera in aperture priority mode, as I've done here. Just hold down the mode button and select aperture, right? Like this. And set your ISO to base ISO. In the D700 case, that is 200, like this. And then select an aperture that is very narrow. Here I have this is a 135 lens, so I set this one to, what will it go to? F22, I think, maybe 32 if I'm a little bit longer, but at least a very narrow aperture. How narrow it is doesn't really matter, but pick one of the ones towards the end of the scale, then you're good. And finally, taking the lens hood off. That always helps, right? So with all this done, simply take a picture of your screen. If you really want to, you can move the camera while this happens. You can see it took a while for the camera to expose. Also, when you have your camera this close to the screen here, you should be out of focus, right? But if you want to be absolutely sure and you have a manual focus lens, set it to infinity. Then you're absolutely sure, that the camera is trying to focus far, far away. So with all of this, you should be pretty sure that you have a picture where you both have it's out of focus and you have camera shake. So you should be pretty sure that anything sharp you see in the picture must come from dust sitting on the sensor, right? If you're worried that what you see is from the lens, what you can do is you can take several pictures with different lenses and see if there's changes between the two. You can just bring them up in Lightroom, press C for compare, and then you can see the two pictures in Lightroom. But I'm pretty sure you'll find that it is exactly the same motive that you will see when you bring it into Lightroom. So here in Lightroom, with the beautiful gray picture here, you can see the issue more clearly if you crank up the dehaze. That's normally how I spot that, especially on a landscape picture, that I have an issue. That is if I start to see spots like this when I work with dehazing. Not that I go this far, but it's a good little exercise to see if you have a clean sensor. Another way of doing this is if you go, there is a little spot removal tool here top right. If you click on that one and make sure you have this check mark down here, bottom left, visualize spots switched on, then also here you can see all the spots. So there's good reason to clean the sensor here. The reason why I take this step is because you just go ahead and clean the sensor is that of course it's silly to clean the sensor if your sensor is clean. So now that you have sort of confirmed that you have an issue, you need to clean the sensor. The first thing you need to do is to flick the mirror away. And the way to do that is you switch on the camera, and then in the menu system, in the setup menu, the fourth item from the top, that's the lock mirror up for cleaning. You can see here that is this one. And you just push this one and then OK. And then it gives you a little instruction here, but basically what happens is when you push the shutter, then it flicks the mirror away. And then it always gets me, it's not symmetrical, so you can hit the shutter as much as you want, but that won't make the mirror go back again. You have to turn it off, right? So menu, lock mirror up for cleaning, start, press the shutter. Now the mirror is away. Then you're ready to take the lens off. In general, the best is if you can leave the sensor exposed as little as possible, right? So that the time when there's not a lens mounted is as short as possible. If you can't select the menu item, the bar simply jumps between the item above and below, like it does right now. You can see it's gray. Then this is a sign that your battery is not charged enough and you need to go and charge a battery. So come back with a fully charged battery and this problem should disappear. The tools that I use, first and foremost, you need this thing. It's a rocket blower. And what we'll do is it will push out a bit of air as you push it. So that's very good for removing dust. Secondly, sometimes I'm using one of these. I won't be using that one today. But if you have a very dirty sensor, then it can be a good thing to have a little brush designed for the purpose that can help you remove some of the dust if the rocket blower simply can't get the job done. Last but certainly not least is the combination here. This is the cleaning swab. You can get these both in full frame and APS-C, and of course you use full frame for full frame sensors and APS-C for APS-C. Don't try to mix it. And then you need some camera sensor cleaner like this one. It doesn't really matter which brand it is. I'm no expert here, but the important thing is it's something that's dedicated or designed for being used on your sensor. Don't use something for your lenses or something else. Buy something that's specific for cleaning the sensor. You can get two different versions. You can probably get many, but there's one where there sort of is an evaporator up here in the top, and then there's one where it simply comes out as drops. You simply turn it upside down and then you can see drops comes out. And I like this one the best because it's easier to control. This one I find a little bit more difficult to manage, but yeah, that's basically it. So what you will do is that if you imagine this is the sensor, of course you're working down a hole because there's sort of the camera itself gives a hole, so you need to work a bit downwards in order to get to the sensor. And the thing is that if you do it so that you sort of do like a pendulum like this, then you'll have a little pressure here, a lot of pressure here, and little pressure here. So that's not the way to work. What you need to do is to make sure that you, to the extent possible, because you're working down a hole, right, as I said, to the extent that you can, you maintain the same angle as you make your way across the sensor, right? So try to see if you can maintain that angle here as much as possible. I know it's difficult because, you know, there's a lot of things getting in the way, but the ideal is to do something like this. The cleaning swab here comes completely vacuum packed and sterile, so that of course that's very important when you're working on your sensor or the glass in front of your sensor as it is. The first thing to do is to use the rocket blower and use gravity to help you. So don't do like this, but make sure that the air is pushed upwards. So whatever is, you know, comes out of the camera naturally falls down. And you should make sure to cover as many angles as possible. But I think this is, you know, almost self-explanatory, right? But that's the first step. Second step, if you want to, then you can use a brush. I'm not going to use that today because sometimes I think the brush actually makes the problem worse, to be quite honest. And whatever you do with the brush, make sure that you don't touch the brush because you have a lot of grease on your fingers. So make sure the brush is sort of packed away when you're not using it. Otherwise, the exercise is to get the cleaning swab out and get some cleaning fluid onto the sensor. See if I can show you that very carefully here. But maybe just a few drops like this. I'm not doing terribly well here. There you are. Of course, it's best if you don't hit the cleaning swab. I think you will easily see whether there's sufficient fluid. And then, as I said, work your way from the very, very left to the very, very right and maintain as much as possible the same angle. And once you reach the other side, reverse the process, so you go from right to left. And that's actually it. And now this one is ready to be thrown out and you have a clean sensor, hopefully. We'll see. Back with the lens on your camera and turn the camera off. No, you can hit that shutter, it won't help you. Now you heard I turned the camera off and it switched off. They flicked the mirror back. That's really all there is to cleaning the sensor. So having cleaned the sensor, you're ready to redo the process. Take a picture of a white screen and load it into Lightroom. And then you can try and dehaze it again and see that hopefully that you see a clean sensor here or a much cleaner sensor. You can also do the other thing, go to the visualize spots tool here and see if you can spot some spots, so to speak. But it looks like I've managed to do a good job. If you don't have a sensor that is 100% clean, don't despair. It takes a few times sometimes to get it right, and also just be happy that if you have managed to remove some of the dirt on your sensor, then that is a good result. With practice you will get better and better. So just keep buggering on, as Churchill said, and eventually you will get it right. The only thing that's left now is for you to throw this out in an environmentally responsible way, of course. Don't try and reuse these. They are made for one-time use only. And yeah, it's really bad if you try to reuse these. So don't do that. And as I said, in general, don't do all of this unless you're very comfortable with the process and take responsibility for whatever issues may occur. You know, I have given you fair warning that you should be ready to accept that you may hurt your camera, you may make a scratch on your sensor or the glass in front of your sensor, whatever the situation is. So make sure that you go into this with your eyes open, and if you're not comfortable or you're not willing to take the risk, get someone professional to do it. Yep, that's it from me. As always, thank you for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.